Welcome to Chasing Modern Classics. I'm here. I've bought the car. It's got a big wing. Is it a GT3 or is it an STO? I'm so pleased I've got the STO back. I've had a lot of messages saying, Richard, what did you get? Did you get the GT3? Did you get the Performante? But I think you all knew I really wanted the STO back. And it's a good deal because I sold this car because I thought it was going to drop in value. So we sold it. VVS arranged that sale. It was a little bit more than we paid for it originally, just over list. And then we've managed to buy it back around sort of 40,000 less. That's in sort of 4 or 5 months. So I knew they were going to drop off and I didn't really like selling it, but sometimes you have to do that. And now we've got it back and now I've got it at what I think is a fantastic value and I can actually use the car more, not worry about the mileage and go round. STOs, let's just talk about values. What I've got in here is I've got the original list price. So the list price was 216,000 plus VAT, so about 260k. The options I put on this car, 62,000 of options, huge amount. So we've got the 20-inch Heck alloys. They were about a £1,500 option. Neuro Noctis on the bottom. I didn't realise it was that much. 4,000 plus VAT. Dark chrome inside. 5,800 option. Teletry, what did I say? I didn't even know I had this on the car. Yeah, Teletry, that's what it is. I can't even say it, but it's on the car and it's 3,600. Lifting system, 2.7. Snorkel and wing in carbon fibre, 5,700 plus VAT. This is crazy. Sport seats, which are a bit of a must on this, 5,000 plus VAT. Titanium rear arch, which is roll bar, 3,200. Now the colour's really interesting. So when I spec'd this car, I went for a colour called Viola, looks like Aglero, and it was a 13,500 plus VAT option, so huge, because I wanted the only one in that colour, and it's like Pasiphae, but with a real gold fleck. I'll bring up some images of that. But it didn't arrive in that colour. So because I changed my mind, it actually arrived in Viola Pasiphae, which is as it is today. And I decided just to keep the car as this colour because it looked fantastic. So now I'm back in the car. I'm going to take it for a drive. So I haven't really driven it very much. And the owner who had it from me, I think they've only done about 80 miles and that was for a service and running back, so it's hardly been used. I don't know what you think of the spec, but I think if I was ordering one again, I'd order it exactly the same because it just looks amazing. So let's go through when I first ordered this car. I actually tried to order one early on because I just love the concept of STO. But I couldn't have a lot of the carbon options that you see today. So this rear wing, this sort of shark fin here, they wasn't in carbon. And I do remember when Smee got his, he didn't have a lot of these options. So I went back about 3 months later to order one again. And again, I couldn't get these options. So I thought, I really want the carbon and I wanted a roll cage. Because if you have a track car, surely you need a roll cage. And in the GT3 I had a roll cage. So I went back again, so imagine this is the 3rd time, and I managed to get the options that I wanted. I could have gone for more carbon fibre, but this car has 62,000 of options. So it's a really lovely spec. I mean, for me, sports seats, you know, Dan, I liaised with Dan on that actually here, and he's going to come in the video in a bit, just talk about values, but he said to me, Richard, get the sports seats, get the sports seats. The other ones are just a bit firm for the road, so I went for them. But these new sports seats actually look like race seats anyway, so that's really nice. touches around here, carbon on the arches. Now, I didn't realise this was actually standard. And obviously what I love with this car is obviously the front clam. I think it's called the Cofango. See, I can say some words. That comes up and you can really see all the carbon on here, and it reminds you of the Mura, the older Lamborghini. But yeah, it's going to be interesting driving it today as well, because I haven't driven it for a little bit and I didn't really get much time to enjoy it. I really want to take it out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get Dan to come in, talk to him a bit about values of Huracan, where the market is and what he thinks is going to happen in the next 12 months. So Dan, welcome to Challenge the Road. Obviously I'm in here all the time. And this must be, I don't know, the 30th plus car I bought.
Yeah, I can't add them
There's
all
too
up.
many.
Can't remember them.
I wanted to just talk to you a bit about the next 12 months for these cars, not just Huracan, but obviously the V12s as well.
Yep.
If I just give you a little bit what I'm seeing, and then I want your expert opinion. So the Revelto's out.
Yep.
It seems to be a huge amount of money, more than probably that people were expecting for a standard.
Yeah, I think a lot more. People are quite shocked by the pricing. But
so we're looking at sort of 550k for a nice spec car now.
yeah.
So is that making these SVJs and that look value, and that's why these are holding now?
Yeah, I think they have for a while, but people are saying, like, you know, even like Performantes have held, but some of them haven't sold, but now they've started to sell. Aventador's done well, like they're all doing really well, and I think it's because the price point of the new one is more than double.
Yeah.
They're looking at the price point thinking it's a lot of money for a car, and also the hybrid technology hasn't done so well in SF90, so they're thinking, is it going to work for Lamborghini? And it's the unknown, really.
So the Performante that you had is now sold?
Yes.
And that was a good price, wasn't it? Just under that 200k
Yeah,
mark.
priced very well in the market. And as I say, that 200 grand for the Performante market has been quiet for the last couple of months, but now people are looking at these new prices coming through, and even 296s are over 300 grand, and they're saying, Performante at 200.
Yeah, it looks a value. And I think if you look at the new Huracan replacement, whatever that's going to be called next year, you're going to be probably just under 300 for a base car standard.
Yeah, I would have said so. If you base it, let's say, with Rialto compared to Ferrari and the entry level 296 with that kind of similar later technology, they're over 300. So I think the base level will be circa 300, yeah.
And that's probably due to the investment of hybrid, which is costing them a lot more to do. But if you're having cars as one-off cars, does it really matter that much with the hybrid? I know it could do because of emissions and stuff long term, but it's a lot of money more. I mean, if you look at a Revelto at say 550, is a limited edition going to be 700?
Yeah, well, you would have thought so. I think the FXX SF90 kind of lightweight is over 700 plus. So you think, I know it's a different brand, but they are always quite similar in the pricing. And I think it's a lot of money for what it is. And the hybrid technology for emissions is good for the brand and, you know, good for what they need to tick. But the end user prefers a normally aspirated, and you probably, not many people like the hybrid because you never quite know where you're at with it. Like, you have to charge it.
Or if it goes wrong, it could be very expensive.
It's out of warranty, it's huge, isn't it?
So let's talk a bit about then an SF90. So if you had an SF90 new, you were 450s, was it?
Yeah, for the top spec cars.
Okay.
But an entry level one would have been 420s.
420, okay. So they've come off a little bit, but not actually that much.
No, they dropped a lot at the beginning and then leveled out. And I think they're coming off a bit now because a lot of people are coming out of them to go into something else. But there's a lot. At the moment, you're not seeing too many online because Ferrari can't advertise too many low mileage cars because of their restrictions with Ferrari. So they're limiting the market at the moment. But no, they did drop a lot at the beginning, but they've evened out now.
So Murcielago SV I bought with you many years ago, and you said that would be one that would go up in value, and it has hugely, so thanks for that. But STO then, have I made a good decision, and where are these? Because obviously they did have a bit of a drop back, but they seem to be holding a little bit more.
Yeah, I think at the beginning they dropped off because there was obviously quite a lot of cars hit the market. There was, because the Performante done so well, there was a lot of resellers that come in, I'm going to buy that and flip it. And that kind of diluted it a bit because there was a lot on Auto Trader for sale. But now they've kind of dried up a bit. They've realised, hang on, this is the last normally aspirated special car. And also the price point that this was compared to what the lightweight next Huracan replacement will be, is going to be massively less, probably 100 grand less, so minimum. So I think now people are looking at them, and I think with the STO it's so spec dependent, because you had, with Performantes, they're all pretty nice because you couldn't change as much.
Right,
but now you can paint the bottom bit a different colour. On these, there's some random...
Well, with the sticker packs and
there's some specs
different
out there.
orange with green stickers, which is just...
Yeah, it's great if you like it, but for resale, it's so, you know, you're restricting yourself a lot, where something like obviously the one that you spec'd originally, we obviously helped you spec it, and we kind of did it together and went sensible, but purple is such the colour of the moment, but also I think it's timeless, because certain like the Nardo greys and stuff, they kind of come in and now they're phasing out, but I think the purple is so rare that it's going to be timeless as a colour.
Well, I was surprised this is virtually the only one in Viola Parsifal. So obviously I remember you had a car here, and I'm sure is it Viola Agrelo?
Yeah, Angola, which is a slightly more glittery colour.
Yeah, that was what I originally wanted, because I thought no one else is going to spec that colour.
Yeah.
And when you had it, I couldn't get here quick enough, could I? Because you sold it.
Yeah, it sold literally within hours of putting it up. But yeah, so I think the price point on these is now solidified, but they are still very spec dependent. So you'll see some quite cheap cars, but generally they're the specs that people are very iffy about. Where I think this colour and the spec, you managed to get the cage with the yellow stitch. It's just perfect. I think everyone that sees this car is like, wow, who spec this? Because it's just on point. Yeah, and
I was surprised. I thought more people would spec this colour.
Yeah, I did as well.
It looks tremendous, especially in here with these lights.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a bit about VVS and why I use you in the market. Now, we're seeing a lot of online auctions. I mean, it's everywhere now. So you had sort of collecting cars. Now it's piston heads, it's Kahuna, all these. So everything can be classified and then just turn into an auction.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that people will return back to sell and return, because some of these prices are very low on these. When you go no reserve, you are to the mercy of the last bidder.
Yeah, exactly. I think in COVID, like when everyone was restricted opening hours, you had to do click and collect. Places like the collecting cars that started did amazingly well, and it was a very good basis to get rid of cars and sell cars. I think now you're seeing prices equalise, and then where the market's a bit, people are unsure, the price is not making, and because the auction house only earns if they sell the car, they're putting quite a lot of pressure onto the buyer to go on no reserve. And as soon as you go no reserve, like you say, you're at their mercy. And also with the fees now that they're charging, it's equal to what you would pay on SOR somewhere if it's done properly. And the problem with people, what we're finding with buyers on some of these auction houses is it's only as good as the information you see on there is only as good as the seller puts in, because they're almost they're just a platform, like an advertising platform. So people ask questions: has it ever had paint? Is it original? Has it had everything that it should have had? And the client says, yeah, it's all great, it's all great. The buyer goes there, picks the car up, brings it to someone like us and says, what do you think? And then you say, well, it's had that painted there, and they're like, no, it's original. But the guy that sold it, he hasn't done nothing wrong, because he doesn't really know.
Well, we've just seen that on the GT4 with me, haven't I?
Yeah, exactly. On that, and the seller probably had no clue. But it was only when you start taking certain bits of wrap off to, to customise it how you want it done. He said, hang on, is that a paint line? And I think they're not experts on what they do. It's just someone has bought a car, thought they've done well with it, selling it, and you've got no comebacks. Where with a dealer, you can obviously go back and say, look, and everyone makes mistakes, and you can't. Sometimes you just can't tell.
I think you find them a little bit, like gambling. Yeah. So I find them quite addictive. Yeah. So I like to look at all the prices, and I think, cool, I could bid on that. And maybe you're bidding on it at 7:30. You might have had a beer. You're sitting down. 100%. You're thinking, and suddenly you're bidding on something, and then you think, oh, I really want that, and you maybe go a bit more, and then you buy it, and you think, bloody hell, why the hell did I buy that? Yeah, and then you have the auction thing. You're like, hang on. Sometimes you think, hang on, I paid a bit much, but sometimes when you're selling something, you think, hang on, I could have got more, because you don't get the auction fee. So sometimes the seller thinks they paid too much. But I had it earlier where a customer called up and said, I want to buy the McLaren and I want to part exchange my Ferrari. And I said, well, what made you buy that? It's not really what sent you after. He said, I'd had a few drinks, I was on collecting cars, and we said, oh, go on, have another bid. And then thought, hang on, you're telling me to put the fee on. I could have gone and buy one from a dealer with a warranty for that cost. So that's great, but the seller didn't get what he wanted still, because the auction house took such a big percentage. So I think it's just
don't get me wrong, it does have its uses, but a lot of them now have become a trade buying hub rather than a good selling hub, because the stuff's just not making money on there. Because you're not having a salesman do his, job to try and prove the good points. It's just what the eye can see. So,
well, I saw an Aston DBS recently, went a manual car for 71, which is very low for that type of car.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think also some people can think that collecting cars is the market price.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to looking at it and it's moving.
Yeah, because people, like you say yourself, you go on there at night, and sometimes before you click on YouTube, you think, I wonder what's about collecting cars. And then when you go on there at that time, which is the reason they all end at that time, they're all about ending. You're watching it end. And sometimes they go on for a while, but as soon as you see no reserve and it's a lower figure, you
think you could get lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
But even with the Celica, I know it's got a few problems, but I'm in a fortunate position to know, well, I've got enough saved behind me to get, if I had to, I actually thought I might have to respray it because I'm buying from an auction.
Yeah.
That was always in my mind.
Yeah, you take that risk, but the person that's not so well versed in buying options, they wouldn't have a clue about that, and they put all their money into one car, buy it, and then they need another £5,000 spending on it, then they can't restore it, so they end up putting it back on. So I think it's just the unknown, really. You can't, and we had it recently where a customer bought a specialist lightweight Ferrari, and he was having to send over kind of in excess of £500,000, and he couldn't get a V5, he couldn't get anything, and he said, well, what do I get as an asset, or a tangible asset that I can say I'm going to send someone money on? Because he could send the money. And the auction house...
Is your worry then about your comeback? On something. So if you're paying over, like I remember when I bought the Celica, the guy was like, we want the money now, we want, and I'm fortunate, I've got obviously Calvin who looks after the cars and could go there, but he was a bit like, well, I might want to pull out now, because he'd obviously got quite a low price. We don't want to pull out, but Calvin's there to go, Richard, when we pay the money, I am with that car. Do not, he said, I don't even, I know it's not massive in the big scheme of things, but any money is money and it had to be earned. So Calvin was like, Richard, you send it when I'm there. Because I was a bit like, oh, just pay him, do it. But that's how you get caught out.
Yeah, of course. Because it's a lower figure, you're like, well, some of these cars, the P1, the Huracan and stuff, it's a lot more. But when you're buying something like the Celica, you think, actually, it'd be fine, but it doesn't make it any more not
And that's
risky.
why it goes back to the roots of, I remember not having any money. So 16,000 still 16.
Yeah,
it's a lot, whatever you are. I don't want to lose it.
You go out to work for a lot less each day, so you definitely don't want to just lose that amount of money. But I think, and that's the thing is, this customer was asked to send in excess of £500,000 to someone that he didn't know, and he couldn't do it with the car. They were like, well, send it and we'll get the car tomorrow. But he's like, well, I can't have a V5. You won't send me anything showing it because it's GDPR. So what? I could lose £500,000. And then it went on for a couple of weeks, and then the auction house stepped in and they went to hand it over, and he went to do the payment of that day. But he said the whole experience made him feel very... unnerved spending that kind of money and being expected to without even having anything to show for it.
Well, I think the main thing for me is when I purchase cars from you and then sell them from you is just having that patience. Just sometimes to say, look, I'll just hold my price, and then if the car doesn't go, then maybe I should just stick with the car. Which is probably happening a bit more now with, if you're in a low interest deal, you're not going to get that now. So sometimes you just have to say, well, I'll stick with the car.
Yeah, you take a bit less to get rid of it, but then like you say, you're into a new deal at a couple of percent more in interest, and actually you might as well stick with what you got and wait. And I think that's the thing is, people, where last year we're seeing a lot more impatient, like, I want to change my car, and they just wanted to move through a few different cars. Now they're like, actually, I'm enjoying the car, I'll stick with it because it costs them that much more a month. Like mortgages, people are staying in houses because they've got an old mortgage rate that's much better than what they can get now. It's the same thing with cars. But that said, with balloons and residuals being so strong, you can get to a sensible monthly, but it's just you've got to change the way you do it.
So these Huracans, like this STO for me now, I think I get, is it a 5-year warranty?
Or 4-year warranty.
4-year warranty. And was it 3 years servicing?
4 years service.
4 years.
4 years service.
4 years servicing, 4-year warranty. So really, I haven't really got much cost to this car now, apart from payments on the finance, and that's it.
And that's the nice thing with them now. They're not so high maintenance, and obviously Ferrari were the first to do a 7-year service plan, and Lamborghini had to follow. And it does make it a bit more enjoyable, knowing that you're into it now and you've got to pay for a service until kind of 2028, I suppose.
So give me your unbiased view, because we haven't spoke about it before, but where do you see STO values, say next year? Say the new Huracan comes out and it's, let's just say base 290 standard car. So you're probably going to put on, let's just say 30,000 of options.
Minimum of paint, like something like Passive paint being similar.
So say you're 330.
Yeah.
Where should an STO? Do you think they're still going to sit at potentially under 300, or do you think they're going to?
Yeah, I think they should do. It's a hard prediction to make because the market stuff's moving so buoyantly at the moment that it does make it hard to predict. But I think something like it's one of the rarest.
Yeah.
You know that they made. It's at the beginning. I said they only were a bit more up and down just because there was so many resellers selling them on the market. But I think they do well, and I think they should hold at high twos purely based on numbers. And I think being last of the raw, normally aspirated Huracans, I think the new one will be a totally different car.
Yeah.
And yes, it'll probably be faster, but it won't have the rawness that this has got. So I think some of the more kind of flamboyant spec ones and lower spec cars will fall down probably to like kind of closer to mid twos. But I think something that specs so well like this and being looked after, I mean delivery miles pretty much, I think it has to do well.
No, great. Well, thanks for coming on.
No,
Give
cool.
us some great advice on Lamborghini and Huracans in the future for the next 12 months. Hope you enjoyed that, and look forward to doing more with Dan in the future, and I'll see you again soon.